The big headline here is that the device was a rudimentary explosive device addressed to Hillary Clinton. And as we know now, there are other
Yes. Seven, 6.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, everybody. We are live right here in the heart of Manhattan, in Midtown, right here outside the Time Warner Center, a sprawling shopping center here in Manhattan. Also home to the CNN headquarters here in New York, which about 9:40 this morning did get a suspicious package mailed here to Time Warner Center. That's why this entire facility was evacuated in the last hour. Hundreds of people who work here or who are trying to visit here have been taken out. This, of course, is the latest in what is being a bizarre and scary and disturbing few hours. That's because what police now believe are all linked events, some kind of explosive device being sent not just here to CNN in New York, but also to President Obama's home in Washington, D.C., to Bill and Hillary Clinton's home in Chappaqua, New York, to George Soros, his home in Westchester County. He's an extremely wealthy philanthropist and Democratic supporter. So we are seeing over and over again repeated events in the last few hours and over the last 2 days or so of these kind of suspicious, what police believe are now pipe bombs being mailed to multiple locations. So far, no injuries. That certainly is the good news, but just 2 weeks before the midterm elections, certainly we're monitoring this situation closely. No idea yet, again, who is behind this or why they are doing it or if it's even politically motivated. But again, some scary few hours in terms of what exactly is going on here. We've been here for about an hour. We can tell you there's been a heavy police presence here for the last hour. Several hundred people, both passersby and people who work in the Time Warner Center. They were told just to get out of the building, go somewhere else other than here, as police continue to investigate exactly what is happening here. But again, about 9:40 this morning, what's believed to be a pipe bomb was mailed here to the headquarters here in New York for CNN. That alert then happened. An alarm went off in the building while CNN was on the air. They evacuated the building in the middle of their broadcast, along with hundreds of employees here at the Time Warner Center. Again, this is all following similar devices sent to the Obamas, sent to the Clintons, also now reportedly perhaps sent to the White House as well. All of this just early this morning, and law enforcement now saying they do believe these devices are all similar and that these cases are all linked. But again, no injuries and no idea who's behind this or why they are doing it. But certainly this is some disturbing and frightening news as we try to grapple with what is going on, who's doing this, and why they are doing it. Those are huge questions right now that have no answers, but we can assure you the NYPD, the ATF, several agencies now on this scene and at all the other scenes investigating what is happening here and trying to get, of course, to detonate, if these are truly potentially explosive devices, trying to detonate those materials and make sure everyone is out of harm's way. That's what's playing out here at Time Warner Center, as well as Chappaqua and in D.C., the home of the Obamas, and up in Westchester County with Mr. George Soros, the billionaire Democratic supporter and philanthropist. So we're keeping an eye on everything that's happening this morning, trying to get some answers, but obviously a disturbing and scary morning here. Again, we don't know exactly what is behind this. That answer is still forthcoming as multiple agencies investigate this string now, what is believed to be related incidents with explosive devices being mailed to prominent news organizations as well as to prominent Democrats and perhaps even to the White House as well. For now, though, I'm Rob Nellis reporting live here in Midtown Manhattan outside Time Warner Center. I'll send it back to you guys. Thank you for watching.
12121212.
You should be able to hear it.
Dude, this is completely separate from that. Okay. All right. I'm Marcus Solis in Chappaqua, where federal authorities overnight discovered a potentially explosive device that was mailed to former First Lady Hillary Clinton here at their residence in Chappaqua. The former First Lady not at home at the time, but former President Bill Clinton was home. The former First Lady campaigning in Florida. But the Secret Service says that a device was intercepted. It was found during a routine mail screening found at 1 o'clock this morning, addressed to the former First Lady. Now, several law enforcement officials tell ABC News that it appears this device, similar to others that were sent to former President Barack Obama and also to billionaire philanthropist George Soros. The Soros incident was 2 days ago at his house in Bedford. It was a pipe bomb that was detonated by authorities. The bomb squad from Westchester County detonating that device. The FBI investigating after they found that pipe with black powder inside and a rudimentary trigger. That device was found by a caretaker of the property, and it is believed that even though it had markings to make it appear as if it was mailed, authorities believe that it was placed in a mailbox outside of the property. Now, it is unclear whether or not this was sent through the mail or discovered. There is a mailbox that is outside of a house adjacent to the Clintons' home, but it is a property that is also owned by the Clintons. They bought it a couple of years ago. It is the weekend getaway for Chelsea Clinton and her family, and there is a mailbox accessible to the public here on Old House Lane, cul-de-sac where the Clintons have lived for years. So it is unclear whether or not someone left that device or it actually did make it through the mail. But again, it was intercepted around 1 o'clock this morning, and it appears that it is similar in fashion to those that were sent to other locations as well. Police presence here, a local police presence just for crowd control really from the Newcastle Police Department, but also the Secret Service is now, we see the activity that you normally would hear with the Clintons and the former president at home at the time. Hillary Clinton was not. There were no other evacuations of other homes here on this small street in Chappaqua. But nevertheless, an investigation underway after that suspicious package found here, addressed to Hillary Clinton, intercepted by the Secret Service. That's the latest from Chappaqua. Marcus Solis, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
We are women committed to raising our families and committed to doing what is right and good in our communities. And we are married to two men who both care about this state and have ideas and passions to change the course of this state. But as you know, change doesn't happen on its own. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in this state and beyond who don't want to see change happen. And they're working their hardest to keep us from making change happen. And if anything of the past couple of years has taught us, there is real danger in complacency. There's danger in not engaging. There's danger in not getting our friends and our families to vote. There's danger in staying home. You know, yesterday we had the great honor and privilege of speaking with Secretary Clinton, who has been a tireless and committed servant to this country for so many years. Many times she has not been thanked for these efforts, and she continues to fight, and we've seen in the news too that just some ugly things can happen. So we are super grateful for her love and her commitment to this area. And so I think with that challenge, moving forward, we've got 13 days. And we've got to share the message to all of our friends what's at stake, because there is so much at stake for our children, for our community, and for all Florida, and quite frankly, for our nation. Everyone is watching this race, and it is so important. We have the opportunity to send a woman to Congress whose life has been spent focusing on health care and focusing on providing children with access to quality education. This woman is Donna Shalala, and she is strong, experienced, and she is exactly who we want fighting for all Floridians up in Washington. And like Dr. Shalala, my friend RJ, I have loved getting to know her. We have had a lot of fun on the trail, and we are committed to the next 13 days of really getting to spend more time together and for fighting what is right. So I'm delighted to introduce you to RJ Gillum, our next future First Lady of the state of Florida.
Good afternoon, everybody. Everyone keeps asking Kristen and I, how are we, how we're doing. It is a blessing to have Kristen and Chris on the trail with Andrew and I. 10 years ago, Andrew got down on one knee and he said, "Will you be my life partner?" And having imagined that moment my entire life, I was a little caught off guard by his word choice, but later, having gone through all we've gone through, raising children together, going through elections together, I realized how important partnership was. So when Kristen and Chris joined us, we truly feel like a partnership. And ladies, just know that even though the gentlemen are the ones on the ballot, you got the full package here with all four of us. So. As Kristen said, we've only got 13 days. How many of you all feel the urgency of these 13 days, right? But just know that we feel, the Gillums and the Kings, that no matter what happens in the news yesterday, what happened today, we are now more than ever motivated and inspired to get out to the polls and tell 10 more people and 10 more people and 10 more people. And we're not going to be embarrassed about who we support. So when people ask why Donna, we should know. You don't have to know her entire platform. Find out 1 or 2 points that you personally are passionate about, because this is the most election of our lives. I'm honored to be able to be here today to stand and help introduce, along with Kristen, a woman whose work I have admired. I have a background in health policy, and women like Donna Shalala and Secretary Clinton are the leaders we need, who are courageous enough to speak out and fight and advocate when others won't. She shares a vision with Andrew where health care truly is a human right. It's not a privilege. It's a right. It's not a luxury that's accessible for those of us who can afford it. So we appreciate the work that she's done. She hasn't just started this work. She has a lifetime of fighting and having the courage and the common sense to bring practicality into our policies. She knows that we can no longer stay on our current path, so we're grateful that she, along with all of you all, have had the courage to step out and run for office this year. We have to reverse course. We have to begin making progress again in the fight to ensure that every Floridian has access to quality and affordable health care. It's not enough for some of us to have that right. So Kristen mentioned that there's a danger in complacency, in simply accepting things the way they are instead of shaping our own futures. And I'll have to say to you that as Andrew has been through this race, I know Kristen and I have gone through the same thing. We would never by choice be standing here with you all today. It's because of a choice our husbands made that we're here. But through this journey, we've learned that we must become leaders in our own right and stretch ourselves and have the courage to say the things that need to be said and do the things that need to be done. We know that Donna, just like Andrew and like Chris, is not interested in complacency. She has the courage to speak up, speak truth, and to fight for the future that should be. As a mom raising young children, I think about their future every day. And if I didn't know Andrew, I'd say that someone like my husband is exactly who I'd want fighting for my kids every day, to have health care and attend good schools. And knowing Andrew and what he stands for has opened my mind to other people who are running for office. I look for that same courage and that same conviction, because what you've done in the past and what you've done on this trail shows us exactly the kind of leader you're going to be. Many of Andrew's values are rooted in his upbringing, and I think those same values come from our future Congresswoman. Donna understands much of what's plaguing many of the people in the state of Florida. She's the granddaughter of immigrants, and she's gone on to blaze her own trail as an accomplished public servant. Her life has been defined by the fights she has won, standing up for civil rights, women's rights, and quality, affordable health care, especially for our children, those that need us to fight for them the most. And she's done this in a time and in many spaces where women were not looked to lead and were not respected. But being someone that's only 5'2", I can tell you that sometimes those of us who are vertically challenged know how to get things done, right? Though small in stature, she is quite a leader, and her light shines brightly. She understands that complacency just won't do. So she has spoken up, and she will continue to. She has led, and she will continue to lead. And because of her leadership, countless young people and families have benefited. So let's be clear. Andrew, Chris, and Donna are all on the ballot in 13 days. But we must also know that so is a choice between complacency and building the future that we all want to see. And because you are here, I know that you already know that. So we all have a job to do. In addition to continuing to support Donna and everyone else in this room that's running for office, we have more work to do. We have more people to call. We have more texts to send. We have more information to share on social media to combat the lies and the divisiveness. It is time for us to bring back human decency to Florida and to this nation, because what we do in 13 days, once we elect Andrew Gillum, the next governor, and once we send Donna Shalala to Congress, will show the rest of the country what can be done in 2020. And so now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the next voice you will hear is our next Congresswoman, Donna Shalala. Thank you.
Have you just heard from two remarkable women who are going to bring it home? Kristen and RJ, thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and thank you all for coming. Let me begin by telling you a story. I've been campaigning all over this district, and I'm usually, even campaigning in restaurants, I can't sit down without working the crowd. It's become second nature for me. So I approached a family of 4. The little boy turned out to be 9 years old, the little girl 6, and the parents reassured me that they were going to vote for me, but they were trying to explain to their son what I was running for. And he said, "Are you running for president?" And I said, "No, I've already been a president. I'm running for Congress." And he said, "What's Congress?" That, Hillary, took a little time to explain. And then I said to him, "So what do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "I want to be a police officer." And I said, "That's a wonderful profession. Why do you want to be a police officer?" And he said, "Because I want to keep the kids in my school safe." That's why I'm running. I'm running for that little boy and all the little boys and girls in this community and communities across the country that ought to feel safe when they go to school. You know, during the Clinton administration, we negotiated an assault weapons ban. Many people forget that. We had it for 10 years. We also negotiated the Brady bill. It can be done. And those of us that are going to Congress this year, in the majority, are going to get it done. In this district, it's not just the assault weapons ban. It's also our life or death issue, climate change. My opponent actually is campaigning today with Kevin McCarthy, who is one of those climate deniers. There are no climate deniers that live in South Florida. For us, sea level rise is a life or death issue. And Congress needs to focus on the future of the Everglades, on climate change, but most importantly, on the sea level rise issue. And then there's immigration. Today, thousands of people are marching towards our border. It is a humanitarian crisis, but inside our borders are millions of people that deserve the right to find a pathway to citizenship. They're not just the DACA kids. They're not just the DACA kids. They're people who have been here for many years, many of them under temporary protective status. We need to find a pathway to citizenship for millions of people that live within our borders, that get up every day and do the right thing and take care of their families. And that's what Democrats are going to do. And finally, Hillary, my favorite issue, health care. These Republican leaders have already announced that they intend to pay for their tax cut for the rich by cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and by taking a vote again to repeal the Affordable Care Act. 96,000 people in the 27th District have their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. Millions of people across our country are dependent on the rule that protects their health care called pre-existing conditions. None of us can predict what we may have in the future, but without the protection within our insurance plans for pre-existing conditions, we don't have insurance at all. We must stop the Republicans from repealing the Affordable Care Act, from taking away Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, from seniors, from poor people. My opponent actually said she wants the free market to work for health care. And I said to her, the free market doesn't work for health care if you're poor, if you're disabled, if you're a veteran. It doesn't work for seniors. That's why we got those programs in the first place. This is not a midterm election. It's an election. It's Judgment Day. It's the day in which we take back our community, we take back our state, and we begin what I think is a very short journey to take back our country. Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, it's very easy to introduce Wonder Woman. We've known each other for a very long time. We actually met before she married Bill Clinton. We worked together at the Children's Defense Fund. She's the greatest champion of children that we've ever had in this country. A leader of leaders, the most extraordinary woman of our times. She will always be a winner, and I'll always be with her. My friend Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hello. Hello, hello.
Thank you all very, very much. You know, before I begin, I want to say a few words about the news this morning of suspicious packages being sent to various public figures and a news organization. Many of you and others across our country have asked after me and my family, and I'm very grateful for that. We are fine, thanks to the men and women of the Secret Service who intercepted the package addressed to us long before it made its way to our home. Every day, we are grateful for their service and commitment, and obviously never more than today. But it is a troubling time, isn't it? And it's a time of deep divisions, and we have to do everything we can to bring our country together. We also have to elect candidates who will try to do the same, who will set goals that will lift up every single Floridian and American, who will look into the future to understand what are the challenges we have to meet today so that our children and our grandchildren have the quality of life and the opportunities that we hope for them. Usually when people ask me how am I doing, which happens quite often, I say, well, as a person, I'm great. As an American, I'm worried. And it's actually for the same reasons. Partly why I am so great is because, with no offense to anyone, I have the most fabulous grandchildren in the entire world. But because I do now have these little precious people, I worry about the direction of our country. I worry about what kind of world will be waiting for them when they're teenagers and young adults and beyond. So it's a special pleasure for me to be here to support the candidates that you have running in Florida. I had the great opportunity yesterday to spend time with Andrew Gillum and RJ and with Chris and Kristen King. And I can tell you, you will be in very good hands when Andrew Gillum is elected governor. I also said that I have the rare experience of being both a candidate and a spouse. And being a spouse is a lot harder. So I'm excited that RJ and Kristen, who you just saw, will be there in Tallahassee doing everything they can to improve the lives of the people of this state, and particularly the children. I'm also delighted to be here with former Representative Ron Klein. Thank you so much, Ron. And I want Mary Barzee Flores to wave her hand or stand up. And Mary, thank you so much for running in the 25th district. Now, it's always fun for me to be in Florida. I first came to Florida when I was 10 years old, driving down here with my parents. I will never forget stopping at a little cafe in North Florida, sitting at a counter to have some lunch, and a man walked in with a small alligator on a leash. You know how some memories just get embedded in your head, and no matter what else happens to you, they stay there? That's one of them. I also remember coming here as a teenager with some of my friends. Now, if you don't tell anybody, I will confess that I actually was stopped for unlawful water skiing. But what happens in Fort Lauderdale stays in Fort Lauderdale. But all those memories and what I've seen in the many, many times that I have come to Florida is a state with enormous potential to really not only prepare for your future, but to set the stage for what America will do to prepare for our future. You know, it's quite astonishing that Florida, the Sunshine State, hasn't been leading not just the United States but the world in clean renewable energy, isn't it? I mean, it's always shocking to me when I see statistics that claim that states like New Jersey actually have more renewable energy than Florida. Go figure. But that's a lack of leadership, an unwillingness to prepare for the future that awaits. I'm also thrilled that Florida continues to grow, third most populous state in our country. But with growth comes responsibility, and how to educate those children, how to provide for preschool, how to make sure our seniors have what they need to enjoy the retirement that they came to be part of here in Florida. So there are real-world daily issues that we have to confront, and that Florida needs new leadership to enable it to make the right decisions going forward. So I'm here to talk about someone who understands this completely. You know, Donna has been my dear friend for many, many years. And in everything she has ever done, from being a cabinet secretary who served for 8 years to a university president, she has lived and worked her heart out to improve the lives of the people she was responsible for helping. Now, that's a simple concept, but hard work coupled with vision and determination is how you get things done. And there is no better person to have in your corner than Donna Shalala. Now, that's why at this moment, 13 days from such a consequential election, it is imperative that people in this district and across Florida vote for leaders who will put them first. Not their party, not their partisanship, not their commercial interests, not any of the other matters that seem to fuel too many people who run for and hold office today. There's a crisis facing our country, and I don't use that word lightly. There's a crisis in our democracy, a crisis in our ability to make the tough decisions, to govern ourselves. And now we've got a chance to try to begin to reverse that. It's obviously very disturbing to me that when you look at what has been done in Washington over the last now, nearly 2 years, it hasn't really been aimed at helping the people of this district or the people of Florida, except for the very, very few. You know, time after time, we have seen decisions made that exacerbate problems, not in any way move towards solving them. And we hear a lot about immigration. Well, the last time I looked, the other party controlled the White House and the Congress. If they wanted to fix immigration instead of using it as a whipping post, they could have. They could have made changes that would have already been improving the situation for immigrants and putting us on a better path. If they wanted to really be fair in a tax system, they wouldn't have benefited corporations and the wealthy to the extent that they did. And now we hear, in fact, they let the secret out, my friends. Mitch McConnell, the other day, basically said, well, you know, we got some budget problems. Well, yes, I guess so. Self-inflicted budget problems, nevertheless, budget problems. And so we're going to have to look at Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid. You cannot be more cynical than that. But that's what they said, and I will guarantee you that if they are returned to majority in the Congress, that is what they will do. So the list goes on. But there's good news, too. And let me stress that, because I am fundamentally optimistic. I'm optimistic about our country and our future as long as we make the right decisions. And I'm particularly optimistic about young people. One of the most moving sights that I have ever seen is watching the Parkland students try to bring us to our senses about common sense gun safety measures. And there are many other young people, individually and together, who are fighting for the changes they want to see because they understand those changes will affect their lives. You know, every election is about the future. And fundamentally, every election has consequences. And those consequences are much more impactful on young people than those of us who are no longer young. People who have more tomorrows, by definition, have more at stake in the leaders that we elect and the agendas that they pursue. So this election is as critical as any that I can remember. And think about what Donna has done, her proven track record of leadership, and what she will do. And I will tell you this. If you want someone to clean up the mess in Washington, send Donna Shalala. She knows more about health care than anybody in the Congress ever has or ever will. Nobody's going to get past her about doing away with protections for pre-existing conditions. Nobody's going to convince her to cut a little here and cut a little there on Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid in order to go after entitlements to fix the budget. No, there's an easier way. Reverse the absolutely wrong-headed tax bill that gave the rewards to the top 1%. No one will convince her that public schools and higher education don't need to be funded, because she knows what a difference a good teacher in the classroom can make for a child from any zip code. And no one will convince her that we don't need early childhood education and preschool programs to help every single child, no matter where that child is from, to have the best shot at learning. And no one will convince her that we need to continue to see the carnage that we experience because of the gun laws that the NRA has intimidated people into supporting in the last years. And if you believe in comprehensive immigration reform and protecting dreamers and keeping families together, she's your person. She has the best ability to take a problem, break it down, and figure out how to solve it than probably anybody I've ever worked with. So when she's in Washington, you'll see a lot of her because she's going to have to be standing up and speaking out against the assault on facts, evidence, truth, and reason. That is a daily staple of what's happening in our Capitol. But she can't do that without your help. Just like Andrew Gillum can give great speeches and do a fantastic job in his debate, if any of you saw it, right? But it won't matter if people don't turn out and vote. And if you don't do everything you can in the next 13 days to convince people who are not yet sure it's worth the couple of hours it might take to vote. Apparently there are some long lines in Miami-Dade because so many people want to vote. But don't let that discourage you. You know, take a cooler, bring a lawn chair. That investment of time will pay off over and over again when you have leaders who are going to pay attention to you, not do the bidding of their rich corporate donors, their ideological partisan advisors. We've got to get back to common sense American problem-solving ability. We've got to start talking and listening. You know, I don't think any one person has all the answers. That's obviously not at all the case. But people working together and listening to each other can come up with good answers. So we need to really bear down these next 13 days. Thank you for being here and generously supporting Donna's campaign. It means the world because she's got to get her message out there. She's got to be competitive online and on broadcast and in papers and everywhere else people are seeking information. But whatever you've done, if you can do a little more, that would be very helpful. If you've knocked on
Bill, we good? Good to go. All right. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Just want to acknowledge, besides the mayor and governor, our partners from the FBI, of course, the FDNY, OEM, Commissioner Esposito, the State Police, and the Secret Service. So today, the NYPD and all of our law enforcement partners responded to reports of a suspicious package at CNN. Our Intel, Emergency Services, and Patrol Borough Manhattan South responded immediately, secured the area, and began a search of the building. Responding officers identified a device that appeared to be a live explosive device. NYPD bomb squad responded, secured the device, and removed it for investigation. Additionally, there was an envelope containing white powder that was discovered as part of that original packaging, and we're in the middle of investigating that right now. The area has been swept with dogs and equipment and found no additional threats besides the white powder. And working with our law enforcement partners, we responded swiftly to secure the scene. NYPD is currently deploying resources around the city out of abundance of caution. If anyone sees something that looks suspicious, please call 911. Anyone with information about this incident today or about incidents in the New York area, please call 1-888 New York City Safe. We've seen this before, and we've seen worse. And we will not be intimidated, and we will bring these perpetrators to justice. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. What we saw here today was an effort to terrorize. This clearly is an act of terror attempting to undermine our free press and leaders of this country through acts of violence. I want to make very clear that the people of New York City will not be intimidated, that we're going to go about our lives undeterred, because the very concept of terrorism is to change us, and we will not allow that to happen. You cannot be terrorized if you refuse to allow the terrorists to win. People of the city have shown time and again that they stand up in the face of these efforts to intimidate. And I want to thank the people of New York City for the way they're handling this situation today. I also want to thank our first responders Commissioner, to you and all the men and women of the NYPD, thank you for your extraordinary efforts today. To FDNY, Office of Emergency Management, our state partners, our federal partners, everyone worked swiftly to address this situation and contain it. I also want to commend everyone at CNN for the professionalism with which they handled this very troubling incident. We, at this time, do not have other credible and specific threats against locations in New York City. I want to let all New Yorkers know you can go about your daily routine knowing the NYPD and all these other agencies are here to protect you. It's important to note that this is an ongoing investigation. As we have more information, we will provide it. But I emphasize there is no specific threat against any other location in this city at this time. That said, the NYPD and all of our partners have reinforced our very clear, visible presence at key media locations around New York City and other important locations. So you will see a lot more police presence. That should be reassuring to all New Yorkers. Finally, I want to say this is a very painful time in our nation. It's a time when people are feeling a lot of hatred in the air. And incidents like this exacerbate that pain and exacerbate that fear. We cannot let the acts of a very few change who we are. It's really important at a moment like this to remember the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of New Yorkers are good people trying to live in peace with each other. There are a few people, we don't know who they are today, but there are a few people trying to tear us apart through acts of violence. It is imperative that we ensure they fail. It is imperative that we act as the good and decent people that we are. This is a moment in history that's painful, but it will pass. This too shall pass. But today, the important point is, everyone can rest assured the NYPD and all other agencies are out in force to protect the people of this city and to make sure that they can go about their lives safely. Thank you. Governor Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner. First, let's remember that we have the best police force and the best law enforcement agencies on the globe. And we want to thank the NYPD and the state police and the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Secret Service, all who have worked seamlessly together and are coordinated. And we should take comfort in that level of professionalism that we have in this city and in this state. As everyone is aware, there have been a number of packages that have been received. Last night, there was the Secret Service detected a package at the residence of President Clinton and Hillary Rodham Clinton. They notified the state police and the NYPD. We personally checked on the president's residence in Chappaqua at about 4:30 this morning, and everything was fine there. This morning, obviously, we have the CNN package, and I want to echo the professionalism with which CNN has handled the situation and the cooperation that they brought to the situation. So I would like to thank them for that. This is the world we live in. Terrorism, the attempt to spread fear, is the world that we live in. It is heightened lately. The mayor is exactly right. There are more tensions than usual, but this is the world we live in. Also, a little perspective. The first terrorist attack in New York City was 1993, 25 years ago, was the bombing of the World Trade Center. So in some ways, this is nothing new. We have lived with this for a long time. Actually, my father was governor at that time. This has been a circumstance of being who we are and where we are. We are New York, and we are an international icon, and for some we're an international target. Terrorism only works if you let it work. Amen. What they are trying to do is scare us and destabilize us, and we will not allow that to happen. We are New Yorkers, we are smart, we are tough, we are resilient, and we will not allow these terrorist thugs to change the way we live our lives. They fail unless we allow them to win, and we will not allow them to win. Now, as the commissioner said, you'll see increased police presence from the NYPD, from the state police, from the MTA police, from the Port Authority police. You shouldn't be alarmed. There'll be more police on subways, more police on the streets, more police at crossings. As the mayor said, that's not because we know any specific threat. It is just a precaution because we are smart and because we have the best talent on the globe when it comes to this. So we will take every precaution we can, but we will not let terrorism win. Not today, not ever. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have with me Special Agent in Charge Brian Parman. That's P-A-A-R-M-A-N-N, who's Special Agent in Charge of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force here in New York City. As the governor outlined, this begins on Monday night with a package that was delivered to a residence in Westchester County. That was responded to by the Westchester County Police, the Bedford Police, and FBI Special Agent bomb technicians. That package was disrupted and taken to the FBI lab. Overnight, late last night, we received word of the package that was delivered to the Clinton residence, or was intercepted before delivery to the Clinton residence in Chappaqua, New York. That is also going to the FBI lab. After that, we were notified by the Secret Service that they had received a nearly identical package in Washington addressed to the Obamas. At that point, we began to take additional proactive steps. We had gone to locations the day before associated with the first individual who was targeted. Today we went out to offices of elected officials, media outlets, television, and in fact, when the package was discovered here in the CNN mailroom, we had NYPD personnel present who were showing them what these look like and what to be on the lookout for. So at this point, we are talking with other FBI field offices, the JTTF, about other incidents that are unfolding in other places. But suffice it to say, it appears that an individual or individuals sent out multiple similar packages. We have been working with corporate partners and the private sector. We've prepared a product through the NYPD SHIELD program, which goes to approximately 20,000 of our private security partners, instructing them on what to look for, what the characteristics are, and renewed tips on handling of suspicious packages. At this point, we're at a very early stage in the investigation. This is being led by the Joint Terrorism Task Force here in New York City with the FBI, the NYPD. We've had assistance from the New York State Police, who are part of that task force, and assistance from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So it's a big group effort. The incident here today, once the package was discovered, emergency service was notified. They called the bomb squad. The bomb squad was able to safely remove a device contained in that package using the total containment vessel, the TCV, or in simple terms, the bomb truck. That has gone to our range at Rodman's Neck, where FBI Special Agent bomb technicians will work with our people on how to get it to the next stop, which should be the FBI lab, so all of this evidence can be examined together. There is an additional issue which is being worked on now, which is within the package that contained the suspected device is also some kind of powder. That's being tested now downstairs, so the mailroom area is still being contained while we go through the various steps to test that on a field test, package it up safely for removal, and decon that area and anybody who came into contact with it.
Commissioner, you want to lead the
We're
question?
going to take, just keep in mind, this just happened a couple hours ago. It's still ongoing. So I'm going to take some questions. We're not going to be able to go too deep into it. Yes. Well, take a look at who's being targeted here right now, and that's why we're doing this proactively. We're reaching out to people throughout the city, checking with the people that do their security, and making sure that their mail rooms follow proper protocol. So it is of concern to us, and that's how come we're reaching out to the right people. Yes. Hold on.
Look, I'm just going to say something broad, because at a time when there's a lot of hatred and division, it does not make sense to exacerbate it. Let's just say this to all public officials of all partisan affiliations. Don't encourage violence. Don't encourage hatred. Don't encourage attacks on media. You could disagree, but you have to show respect for people and air your disagreements peacefully. So unfortunately, this atmosphere of hatred is contributing to the choices people are making to turn to violence. There's no question about it. And the way to stop that is to turn back the other way, to bring down the temperature, to end any messages about the use of violence against people we disagree with. And that has to start at the top.
And again, look, this is a political year. It's a political season. We are weeks from an election. And that's obviously in the air, and that's an obvious fact. But we've been through many political seasons, and we have political differences, and that's actually good for democracy. What is not good is overheated rhetoric, extremism that pushes people to violence. And at the end of the day, we may have political differences, but this is one country. We're all Americans, e pluribus unum, out of many one, and keeping the debate and the dialogue civil is very, very important. And for elected leaders who in many ways set the tone, it is especially important.
Hold on. Right there.
Describe what the device looks like that was found.
John?
Sure. Brian Farman from FBI JTTF. So far, the devices have been what appear to be pipe bombs.
If I could, I'd like to make a statement. I know that a lot of the public right now is scared and concerned, and there's a lot of confusion surrounding this. I want to assure you that the reason we are here, because the totality of the federal, state, and local authorities will investigate this thoroughly and follow every lead, and we will turn over every rock, we will turn every corner, and we will talk to everybody that we have to in order to mitigate this threat. The mission of the New York Joint Terrorism Task Force is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. The utilization of violence in order to further one's own political agenda is unacceptable to us, and we will not rest until we find this, stop these hazardous devices from being mailed, and bring the individual or individuals to justice. We have no better partners in the NYPD, the New York State Police, and the entirety of the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We will be on this until the day that we find this individual and bring him to justice. I'd like to thank NYPD and our partners on the task force, as well as the United States Secret Service, as well as the U.S. Capitol Police, as well as the Westchester County authorities for the cooperation and collaboration that we have thus far. And with that, I'll turn it back over for questions.
Hold on a second.
As you've heard, there is a number of devices, and there's a pattern, apparently, to the number of devices. We wouldn't be at all surprised if more devices show up. A device has been sent to my office in Manhattan, which we were just informed about, and that device is also being handled. So again, this is a situation. A number of devices have been sent. They're being handled. We wouldn't be surprised if additional devices are sent. And the device that is been sent to my office has been identified and is being handled as we speak. Well, terrorism related, right? Terrorism is an attempt to strike terror, an attempt to strike fear. Obviously, these devices are an attempt to strike fear, hence terrorism. Are they domestic? Are they international? These are all questions that would have to be handled by the investigation. But yes, it was a terrorist attempt. It was a terrorist attack. And as you said, what's the intent? To strike fear. And when they strike fear, they win. That's when they are effective. Who controls that? We control that. We control that. This is not the first time we have been through this. We have been through this many, many times. Literally, as I mentioned before, it goes back 25 years to the first World Trade Center bombing. This is New York. It is part of who we are and part of our profile. So we refuse to be intimidated. We refuse to allow them to make us afraid of going through our daily life. We have the best law enforcement agencies. We're all working together. We're all here, and we're going to go about our daily lives, enjoying this beautiful city and state, and we're not going to let them win, period. Kate, you had a question?
More questions, guys?
Commissioner, was anything written on the packages? What was the return address?
Yeah, Zolan, I'm not going to go into what exactly was on the package, okay? It was consistent with the other packaging, though. Listen, we have to go back to work, so we're going to give you updates throughout the day. I just want to remind everybody here and all New Yorkers, any tips, any leads, call 911 or 1-888-NYC-SAFE. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.